I think, and not just facetiously that Vitalik should come on Steady Lads, but he like really should, right? Because like at the end of the day, like, there's always this sentiment with the ETH crowd, like on Farcaster and stuff, that they're like kind of in this research ivory tower, right? They spend all their time drawing boxes and lines, basically, right? And they really need to come and talk with us retards and degens, right? They need to come and talk to the people. Right? If that's what
talk to the people,
about, right? Like, I think it's totally fine that they go if they really have conviction that what they're doing is correct, right? And they don't need feedback from us degens and retards. That's okay too. But then they can't complain about short-term price action. If they're right in the long term, they'll win, and in the short term, they'll just have to suffer pain, right? But if they care about the short term at all, they need to come talk to the people. So I totally agree. They need to come on Steady Lads for sure.
Vitalik sort of reminds me of Kamala Harris dodging Joe Rogan, just thinking, we're just friendly guys, the three of us. We just want to talk to him, get to know him anymore. We're not going to grill him too hard.
Welcome everybody to Steady Lads. We have Justin with us, the meme coin hater, as he's known now in the streets.
And the meme coin master, some might know me as, but that's okay.
Okay, we'll get into that maybe. So Taiki, the goat lover, is here.
Love the goatsy gospel.
the preacher of the gospel. And we have Kevin with us, the warrior of the Roman Empire. How are you, Kevin? Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. No, thanks for having me. It's been good.
So for our viewers who were not, were in a cave last cycle, Twitter handle, Galois Capital, was the one battling with the Do Kwon legions over on Twitter until they finally succumbed to his power. Are those days memorable? Do you still look fondly upon those battles, Kevin?
Yeah, I remember being in the trenches with you, Jordy, too, but I just want to say, off the bat that I didn't cause anything to happen. That thing was like doomed from the beginning, so I just want to, just clarify that.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. I think the mechanism, as I've tried to explain since, is basically one where the people just kept, minting Luna, and it was not being backed by the amount that it was being mint by, and that was eventually gonna crash. I still think it was such a interesting approach you took with this like mythology approach. Is this, and I've seen you potentially look at doing that again. Are you a believer in creating culture and creating like these like vivid storylines? And do you see that in like these meme coins now? Or
yeah, I think to some degree. I mean, for me, it was mostly just everybody just has ADD on Twitter anyway, right? So you got to like hold people's attention. So I thought that would be a good way to do it. And plus I'm a big history buff, especially when it comes to the Roman Empire. But I think for me, I think the PvP days are kind of over, because I have a feeling that we might be getting into a bull run soon. So bull runs are normally marked by everybody kind of coming together, working together. And then like bear markets are just like everybody's margins are getting squeezed, competition is tight, everything gets a little ugly, it's very PvP. So I think, the right mentality for the right, part of the cycle. And then, just on top of that, I feel like, that was such a, and I think you were there too, right, Jordy? And like, GCR and like all these guys, right? Like Monet and, Freddie Reynolds, all these guys. And I just feel like that whole thing was just a very thankless job, because you're just getting a lot of hate from a lot of different places. And then finally you're vindicated. And then, everybody wants to talk to you, right? But it's just like the whole thing just like reeks of, that kind of like very populist kind of like popularity contest. And, I think for the most part, those fighting days are kind of over. I kind of want to just like chill, a little bit and just like, maybe do some like venture investments and stuff. So
if you were gonna, take the spears back on for one last Roman Empire battle, is there something right now in the space that you might target? You don't have to start the war, but like theoretically, is there something out there that you kind of feel like, oh, if I was younger, I would go.
Well, there's definitely coins out there that I think are gonna go down and that they're not good for the space. But I would say two things. Like one is just that, like nothing is like super egregious, right? Like, cause like, Luna and UST, it was like double-digit billions by then. There's nothing like that like right now. There's at least nothing that reflexive on the downside. And then like on top of that, it's like, it's just I'm a bit tired. It's just I don't really want to do it again, really.
Eric Wall last week, he was trying to FUD BitTensor and explain why this is not going to work, and pretty sure his Twitter replies are full of them now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Eric, but it's still not big enough that it's like a real problem, right? Like if me and Eric are right, then it'll just go down, and if we're wrong, then it'll just go up, right? But there's no real like systemic risk here.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Kevin, because I think this is the first podcast you've done in a year or two, right? So what have you been up to the past couple of years? And I heard you have a funny story to share with us. So can you?
Sure. Yeah. So, just, these days, after the whole FTX collapse, it was really terrible for us. And then, I'm sure you guys read about the settlement that we did with the SEC afterwards. So, I've been mostly pretty on the quieter side. And then the operating companies that we had, we basically fire sold them to an acquirer. I can't really say who it is, but we're basically working for the acquirer right now. And, most of the team went over, maybe about half the team went over. And then also on top of that, I'm basically working on my family office right now. So I'm looking forward to being a humble farmer and retired to till the land and that sort of thing. But yeah, I've actually a funny story about Thicky, and so I'm friends with Thicky, and if you guys remember, there's like one point where right before the investors unlocked for like WorldCoin, right? Like both us and them were like short WorldCoin, right? And and then like there's this huge short squeeze going into it, right? So we're looking at his Bybit account, and we're looking at it and we're like, oh, this guy's taking like some like pretty big losses. So I wonder if he's like short WorldCoin like us, right? And then like we're looking at our position, right? And like it's like pretty painful, but like our liquidation point is like pretty high, right? So like I'm not too concerned about it. But then I was thinking, man, all these guys are short WorldCoin, right, going into this unlock. So like, what if they get liquidated, and then there's just like it prints like this candle and like liquidates us, right? And it's like a liquidation cascade. That could be like super dangerous, right? So then I go like hit up Thicky, right? And I'm like, yo, dude, are you like short WorldCoin? Like, what's going on over there? And he's like, and I think he was like a little bit suspicious, so he was like really cagey about stuff. You know what I mean? So I think he thought that we were on the other side, that we were squeezing him, right? But like we were just in the same boat as him. We were losing money too, So it was just super funny. And then he was like telling me all sorts of shit about, his liquidation point is like super, super high. I'm like, I don't know, man. Looking at this P&L chart, I don't know, it could be a little bit lower. You know what I mean? I'm worried because I'm worried he's gonna wash me out, right? So like that's what I'm worried about, right? But he's worried that I'm squeezing him, right? So it was just like a funny situation over
there. for all the kids at home, this is your explanation for why he's not too short.
Wait, Kevin, yeah, so what happened? So what happened in the end?
Suzu squeezed them and liquidated them. What do you mean?
Oh, so that's who it was. It was Sue, huh? Oh, man. But I don't know what happened to him, but like we were fine, basically. We took some losses, though, but we did take some losses.
Yeah, the mechanic of that. So let's say like you short at $2, right? And then it starts ripping to like $3. And you're like, okay, fuck, we're down like 50%. How did you, because eventually it went down to, $1.50, but is it like you're just like happy to get out for at like $2.50 or $2.20, or like how mechanically, just out of curiosity, do you handle that situation?
Yeah, I think it depends on the timing, right? Because like once the unlocks actually happen, there's physical coin that come onto the market, and a lot of these investors, the cost basis is so low that at least some of them will sell, right? So you'll get some relief there. But I guess the kind of calculation there is whether or not you think that between then and now and then that it's going to continue going up, at which point you're better off closing and maybe even going long, for the short term, or you think that, or maybe you like if your size is too big, maybe you just have to hold through it, right? So there's like sizing considerations. There's also considerations of how much time is left for it to go up or down. But I think like you should always just kind of reevaluate the situation once you're in it, and then like not kind of get married to your position, right? But at the same time, maybe your position is good, and not just also to be like super weak about it and then just puke it out, and then just completely lose conviction either, right? So it's just kind of like synthesizing the reasons that you got into the position in the first place with all of the new information coming in. And I think that's like the best that you can do. And it's like kind of like on a case by case basis.
Yeah. So I guess talking about shorts, I think the big unlock that happened recently was Celestia. So, Chris Berniski's bull posting on the timeline, and I think, Dicky and Deco, they're all short. So are you playing the Celestia Unlock? Like, what do you think happens here? Do you think, it's going to just keep going down, everything is overvalued, or like, what's your read on the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share my thoughts, but I also want to hear your guys' thought on this, because this is something that I'm actively talking about with the team. And, I think it's actually a bit unfortunate because it was a trade that we could have caught, right? Because it only started going down maybe about like 6 or 7 days ago. And, usually when there's like an imminent unlock that's very big, usually, it starts going down beforehand, right? So like, I think maybe what it is that everybody's so caught up in this meta, with like all the AI coins and all of the, meme coins that people like stop looking at the unlock trade, which, kind of stopped working for a while, right? There were some times where, these unlock trades were kind of bullish and people got punished for. And then, this one came about, and I think people were a little bit shy about it. And maybe that's why it took 1 week is just not a very long time, right? So, that's why, I think it took a while for people to start piling into it. And then now at this point, the price has been suppressed so much that I'm actually trying to look for a long, but maybe at lower prices. Because I was thinking something like one of my guys who was doing some analysis, and he was looking at like how much like would people actually sell, like who are the investors, that sort of thing. And we were thinking something like, maybe at like 3.8, maybe like 4, 3.9, something like that, just go long. But maybe not. Maybe earlier than that. If everybody who's shorting needs to cover, then there's at least going to be some relief over there. So it kind of depends a little bit on the price action, right? Because I imagine like some people just get bored. If the price doesn't go down enough, after the unlock happens, maybe then they just cover the shorts, something like that. But it's always hard to say. We're just playing it by ear.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, curious to hear what you guys think about this whole TIA thing.
Yeah, for me, I've been staking my Celestia for close to a year now, so I'm the exit liquidity for the investors.
Sorry.
So I'm hoping you buy my bag so I can dump it on you.
Okay, I'll buy your bag so you can dump it on it. But lower prices.
Lower prices, okay.
Kevin, in your experience, like how do these things generally get priced in? Maybe you could just talk a little bit to that of like what a month out from an unlock looks like up until the unlock date, and then usually what happens on the unlock date is not what people are expecting. That's sort of what I've noticed that you and Jordy and Taiki have all been talking about. So maybe you could just give an overview of how that looks.
Yeah. So what I would say is that everything's kind of on a case-by-case basis. And how priced in it gets really depends on, so a bunch of different factors, right? Like how big the unlock is, how expected is it, right? And how much shenanigans you think there's going to be like right before the unlock, right? Because a lot of these token projects, what they do is they like try to match up like good news to come out with the unlock, right? And then try and like give some muddled signals to the market. So you have to be a little bit careful with shenanigans or like pushing back the investor unlock. They're like, oh, psych, the actual unlock is like, 2 months from now, or we're just going to change the schedule or whatnot, right? So you also always have to be a little bit careful about that. And then you can kind of see what the pre-positioning is, right? Because you just like look at like OI, for example, and then, you can see like whether or not people are already really positioned for it. And then, I think on top of that, it's like who are the holders of it, right? Like you can kind of do an analysis, like a cohort analysis of all the different VCs. And there are some that are just way more likely to dump and some that are like way less likely to dump, right? And they like some of these guys are playing much more longer term games. Some are much more shorter term. So you can kind of see like, and then you can see like the different series that they got in, like seed, series A, pre-seed, all that stuff. And you can see like if they're above water, below water, that sort of thing. I think in general, when it comes to like trading news, one thing that matters is like whether or not the thing that's coming out, if it's like known uncertainty or if it's like unknown uncertainty, right? So like to give you like an example there, like, we don't know, let's say like, we're like a couple months ago, we don't know if the Fed is going to cut by like, 25 bips or 50 bips, but we do know that on this day, they will make that announcement. Right. So that's kind of like a known unknown, right? Like people are always already pre-positioning for what they think the Fed is going to do, as opposed to something like the Ripple lawsuit, which came out and kind of blindsided everybody when Ripple kind of like beat the SEC on, that one particular ruling or case. And that like nobody was really prepared for. So then something like that might take a little bit longer to price in. And maybe that's not as much a sell the news event, while things that are a lot more expected, maybe a lot more like buy the rumor kind of sell the news, right? But it's all kind of like case by case.
Yeah, it's case by case. I agree with Kevin. I'm very familiar with Celestia in particular, it's something that we've been actively trading, did quite well on. I think a lot of the secondary brokerages made a lot of money because there was a huge amount of demand for hedging because just the size of this thing was so big. And a lot of the investors were up so much. When you have that combination, investor up 100x and like huge unlock, there's generally a lot of secondaries going around for people just to sell their unlock. We bought a bunch of that stuff. I think other people did as well. Then you kind of like figure out how to hedge and what you want to do exactly around that period.
Taking that into account, Jordy, if most insiders or the large holders, the large investors are hedging before the unlock, is that net bullish, right? There's all this activity pricing in like instant sell pressure, but actually that sell pressure has already been realized.
It's net neutral. It just sort of smooths out the curve. It gets a lot of the selling over the last week. Like we've seen it just sell off from $6 to like $4.50. And then when the actual unlock happens, this is like nice to see. It's just all normal. Nothing else happens because it's just people unwinding the hedges. The funding rate is the key. When it gets super negative, it means that too many shorts are like demanding hedging. Like there's a demand for hedging so high that it just forces the funding to be negative. Now we see it completely normalize, which means that there's a lot of spot. It's out there. People are just slowly unwinding their perp spot positions. And that's not a risk to the market. It doesn't create any problems because the funding rate turns positive because they're spot selling. And that's fine. I think depending on when you hedged, you might have done quite well. Some people hedged at $6 for $5 and then, ends up being $4.50. So everybody makes money. The hedgers make money. They make money. The only people losing money are the people who believe the VC tweets about like, you should buy. This is like so cheap and don't worry about unlocks. I think those are borderline. Yeah, just it's kind of unethical to be tweeting before an unlock about a project, in my opinion.
So, Jordy, what you're saying is that the VCs don't have our best interests in mind, really?
Blasphemy.
I'll end with this because I have been quite public about this problem with the forward curve being so negative and what an issue it is. When it comes to unlocks, I think the only tokens that should not get unlocked from day one are conditional tokens. A team, like for example, if you're an employee, you get a 4-year vest. If you leave in 2 years, then you lose the tokens. So it makes sense. Like you should be vested, and then those should unlock as you work. But if you're always getting the tokens, and it's just a matter of time, there's no way you're going to lose the tokens. You don't have to like do something to get them. Then you should get them right away. There's no reason to stagger them to align incentives, whatever. And I think Andrew Kang said it very nicely, which is like, if the VCs wanted to sell day one, then, that's going to hurt their reputation anyway. Like they're not going to do that anyway. Like there's reasons why they wouldn't do that stuff. So
as someone that's getting close to launching a token, one thing I'll say is there is a very strong mandate in the US that you at least have to lock people up for 1 year as sort of like the minimum duration. But that's if you can abide by that and unlock everyone after 1 year, for example.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, Andrew Kang is spot on there. At least for the investors, it should just be unlocked on day one. But, maybe for employees and founders, maybe a bit longer. That kind of makes sense. But yeah, I definitely agree. And I also agree with your point, Jordy, about that overall it's kind of like a net neutral effect with the OTC hedging. I actually think it's really interesting the position that Terran is in at Styx, because he gets to see a lot of this kind of flow, which is very opaque, I think, to the rest of us. But yeah, I'm sure he's seeing like all sorts of like hedging and like people selling OTC.
Yeah. Maybe we can have Terran on the show one time.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Terran's a cool guy. People need to like get educated about Terran. So just like a little pre-story here. I've been in Dubai this week. This is the Binance blockchain week going on, and there's Ton Gateway as well. So a lot of people in town. Last time I think you were here was for token, and sadly the traffic has not gotten any better despite there not being a torrential, cataclysmic flood going on. It still takes an hour to get anywhere, which is pretty bad. But I've had some really interesting discussions. The main summaries are, one, like, not a lot of people hold Bitcoin, so there's not that much euphoria going on. A lot of people in other stuff. Altcoins, still kind of depressed. Two, this is a meme coin heavy city. all the meme coin influencers, not surprisingly because of the kind of tax regime and the legal regime, a lot of them are in Dubai. They all, know all the cabals. There's like 40-person cabals that work together and trade together and put alerts, and they're building tools. I learned quite a lot. I had to sit down with some of these guys. Some of the highlights from the streets, from what I'm hearing in the streets. One, Base is dead, apparently. Like, it's all in Solana right now. I didn't know this. I thought like Base still had some pretty big stuff going on, but they're saying it's sort of one pony show with Solana at the moment. I found out about some of these marketing strategies that are used, and a lot of Telegram groups, a lot of reply guys, a lot of concerted efforts going on. The amount of professional tooling that these guys use to track wallets getting funded from Binance, like, oh, this wallet just got freshly funded, and they get all these alerts. It's a very professional setup to track these pump funds and all these launches and figure out if someone's bundling, and then you try to snipe them when they're going from the pump fund to Radium at the 60K market cap, and you try to snipe that, and then people dump on you. There's a lot of game theory going on. What else? So people are talking about Hyperliquid right now. I would say that's quite hyped, and it's kind of getting close to TGE. Everyone is asking each other, what do you think? Is this actually going to launch where it's hyped, or like what do you think? My general answer to these is I think it's going to launch at 500 million market cap. So the FDV just depends on what they actually use as the float. The main question, I guess, is will Binance list Hyperliquid? And I think probably not, but there's some chance.
Quick question for you, Kevin. Like, as a high frequency trader, do you use Hyperliquid? What's the experience like? Do you think, are you bullish the token once it comes out? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, we used to do a bit of HFT at Galois, but we don't do any of that anymore. We're mostly discretionary long short right now.
Okay.
But I like the product. I mean, I think Jeff is a really smart guy, and there's a reason that they've been picking up market share. They're basically doing their own market making, which I think at some point there's going to be some issues there. But at least for now, it's like the execution quality is really good, and they're listing like tons of different markets. So I think I like what they're doing. Yeah.
Nice. If I can, pivot the conversation, one thing you said earlier, Kevin, is, in markets there's known unknowns and unknown unknowns, and I think one known unknown that we're all talking about is the election. So according to Polymarket, I think Trump peaked at 67, and now it's closer to 61.39. How do you think about the markets with the election? Like, one thing Justin and I noticed is that as soon as Trump odds peaked, that's when the markets started nuking. I'm not sure if that's like related, but what happened? How are you playing the election? Are you risk on Bitcoin, like light on alts, etc., or how do you think about this? How do you position for this?
Yeah, so I just want to maybe pre-qualify that in this and say that I don't really have any edge in political markets. So just take this with a grain of salt. I think whether Trump or Kamala wins, I don't think it's that bad for crypto. Even if Kamala wins, because there's still the House and Senate, and generally crypto at this point, at least in Congress, is pretty bipartisan. It'll still be pretty rough, I would say. I'd still expect price to go down if she wins. But maybe not as much as people are kind of scared of. And then on top of that, probably Bitcoin does well, just because Bitcoin's already kind of like a commodity. And then all of the possible quote unquote security coins, maybe they still have a lot of pain to deal with going forward. And then if Trump wins, or if there's a Republican sweep on both houses, then it should probably be very good, and probably ICOs come back. And I think there's two countervailing effects here. Because with Solana, one of the reasons, I think there's two main reasons meme coins have taken off. One is purely a regulatory reason, and then because it's very hard to make the case that a meme coin is a security, just because nobody in their right mind could think that they would actually profit from it. So I think and in the long term, at least in the short term, of course, you make massive profits on it. So I think partly it's that, and then partly it's just that people are sick of being exit liquidity for private investors. But going on the first point, if ICOs do come back, maybe Solana does take a hit because the meme coins go away. But if there are ICOs and they come back, then probably a lot of that happens on Solana anyway, right? So I don't really even see Solana doing that badly. They lose one thing, but they gain another maybe. So that could be okay. As for the election itself and the odds, probably the right person to ask is like GCR, who's really good about that kind of stuff. Like I don't, for me, I go with the poly market odds. I think.
Kevin, we have Justin here. He's the Pennsylvania GCR.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, what do you think,
Yeah.
Justin? Let me hear. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I've been tracking this pretty closely. Actually, this week a tweet unfortunately became very popular. This was when we did When Shift Happens in Singapore, and I came out. One, I was sort of let's say not favorable on crypto Twitter for being more long ETH or more bullish ETH than Solana for 2025. But I also in that clip said that I thought Kamla was going to win. I'd like to revise that now. Personally, like you, Kevin, I don't think I have an edge there. I do think based on everything I've been seeing, I think poly market odds make sense. It's about 60-40, which is like virtually a tie, right? I mean, that's pretty close. I do think Trump has an edge now. He's made some inroads in Pennsylvania, although the early voting is a little scary, I would say, for Republicans. But I would say overall, he's definitely done better than I anticipated even just a month and a half ago when we were in Singapore. And so I think poly market is about right here, as it should be, right? Like this election in our country is very divided 50-50. So it would be very hard to expect an outcome or the true odds to be anywhere different than 60-40.
Yeah, your guys' guess is as good as mine. I have no edge here. So.
But I do want to push back on something you said, Kevin. I do think there is actually a big difference, and it's all because of the SEC, not necessarily what would happen with Congress or the House or the Senate. I think the SEC there's a big difference here on who wins. I also think there's this meme going around that meme coins are not going to be treated as securities by the SEC. But I actually think there's really not much reason to support that. Because like if you look at the Howey test, I would not be surprised if Gary Gensler made the accusation, even though I disagree with it, that these meme coins are securities because you're betting on a core team to basically build a cult, market this thing, get the word out there, etc. Like even though they're not building a core product, they are marketing the token as a product. And I think they're not immune from regulation either.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could be right. I just think that it's just a harder case to make because it's sort of like, how do you get profits? How do you make profits from the efforts of others? Like one, there's a question about how profitable is this stuff anyway? Do people actually go into it thinking about as an investment class kind of security? Or is it just like they understand that it's gambling? And then two, it's like what efforts of others? I mean, you just click a button, right? Like there's no even real effort there.
But we're not seeing that. We're seeing like insider cabals getting allocations. We're seeing like actually organized marketing around these tokens.
Oh, I would say that in that case, then yeah, that looks more like a security, right? Than like someone just randomly clicking a button, creating like a picture, and then putting up a token, right? But then I would agree with you for sure.
So a couple of days ago, I went to like a dinner hosted by Uniswap Labs as a bag holder of the governance token, and I was talking to a few members of people in Uniswap, and one thing that of course, they know about the SEC and legal situation because they got the Wells notice. And one thing that one of the employees talked about was that it could actually be really bearish short term if Trump wins because Gensler knows that he's going to be out. So he's going to just drop all the cases all at once. He's like, fuck it. Like, this is my last hurrah. He's going to just drop all these cases. And that can cause like a dump in the short term for alts. But of course, in the medium to longer term, like it would be net beneficial.
I mean, I think that's huge, unbelievable cope. The Uniswap team is like publicly and known as very left-wing, which is fine. Like it's totally within their rights. But even if that were to happen from November till January, that's like a couple month window. And then all of those cases can be dismissed if a new chair of the SEC came in, right? They don't have to pursue these cases if they think they're not valid. And so personally, I think that that's just complete cope.
Yeah, and Justin and I know how to cope as a need holder. So
yes, 100%. Are you still long Uni, Taiki?
As of October 31st, yes, but that may change depending on what happens with the price. Well, speaking about cope, Justin, do you want to talk about the ETH Blob cope bull post? I want to hear Kevin's thoughts on this as well, because Kevin has been tweeting about ETH holders like bull tweeting at the same time, and this collective bull post, and like it worked for one day. Now the prices are going down again, but care to share the bull post for ETH?
Yeah, absolutely. So like over the last week, after that When Shift Happens like clip of me talking about being an ETH bull relative to Solana came out, I've seen like a lot of people reaching out to me, sending things like this. there's actually a lot of discussion happening in the Ethereum space on how bullish these blobs are. The TLDR is that if a demand for Ethereum block space on L2 does a 2x from here, about a 2x, ETH becomes basically massively deflationary, where we're burning thousands and thousands of ETH per day again. And so right now we're doing about 180 TPS across all L2s, according to this tweet. But if we get to 400, which you can see in this GIF here, I know it's quite small, then ETH becomes massively deflationary. I'd recommend folks reading this tweet. But basically, I thought like the most interesting post from Tim is he basically said, like, you guys really thought that Vitalik and the whole Ethereum Foundation and everyone building this hadn't thought about this. And so, like, if you actually look at how blobs are priced, it does get insanely bullish for ETH if L2 demand really does pick up. Obviously, that's the question. But if people are using L2s, it is not fair to say that they're parasitic towards ETH, in my opinion.
Can you click on the image and explain like what's going on there with the red curve and all that? I'm too smooth brained. I don't really know.
Yeah, sure. So this image is an example of ETH doing 10,000 TPS, which is obviously quite bullish. If we got to 10,000 TPS, the average cost of a transaction on L2 would only be 6 cents, which obviously is higher than Solana, but still quite reasonable. For context, we're doing 200 TPS now, so 10,000 is a huge jump. But if we ever got there, which is obviously like the long-term goal to get to something like the scale of Visa, 10,000 TPS, you can see we'd be deflationary by 4.6% per year. And so that's 15,000 plus ETH burnt per day. So this is obviously a lofty goal, but this has been the Ethereum roadmap, right? Ethereum is trying to build for something like 10,000 TPS per year. And if we ever get there, right, on Ethereum L2, that's going to be insanely bullish.
What do you think, Kevin? Do you buy this?
I think that I particularly like this post as opposed to like a week ago. There were like these novels that were being written by everybody poking on the timeline, which I didn't like. And the reason I like this is because I feel like it's much more concrete how this affects the market. And it's much more relevant to me. While everything else, like on like the super long-term tech side, I think as more of like a short-term trader, that's not stuff that we really care about. They could be right, they could be wrong. It'll take forever to even figure out exactly what they're saying. It'll take forever to even read that thread. It's a fucking novel, So, like I think at the end of the day, this one I actually did like. And the previous ones, I think it's a lot of like navel gazing, like a lot of times, like, sometimes people like start shitting on like Bankless, they start shitting on like like Vitalik and stuff like that, and that's like they're on trial for price going down, right? It's like there's this veil of like people think that it looks like they're talking about tech, but really people are just mad that the price is going down, right? So like if that's the case and they're wondering why the price is going down, well, my thesis is just that there's just too much infighting in Ethereum, right? Like all these boomers who might be wanting to buy this ETF, they're going to be reading these tweets and they can't make heads or tails of it. They're going to be looking at this tech and they're like, this is just like some wacky gizmo, some crazy mechanism. They have no idea. But what they can tell is that a lot of people are constantly in disagreement with each other, and that kind of scares them off, right? So that's why, I thought it was very interesting that when, Vitalik, said that, the ticker is ETH, he started calling people bro and stuff like that, then everybody started in unison chanting, the ticker is ETH, the ticker is ETH. I mean, the whole thing was pretty cringe, but it kind of did what it was supposed to do, right? Like at least there was some unity there. And, and I think, that the market reflected that, right?
It was a good start, yeah. And then like he kind of paired it with this tweet here. After his long post, somebody said, "Is Vitalik retarded?" And he responded himself. He said, "Yes."
Yeah. So Vitalik, he needs like a PR team, like a personal PR team. Like, of course, these posts are great, like talking about the surge, and then we've got these like nerdy engineering charts. But like people don't want to read this, right? Like, of course, it's great for engineers and builders, but the average person just wants like a quick TLDR. This is like a very technical spec.
Yeah, I mean, us traders, we all have ADD anyway. Are we going to sit here and read this fucking novel? Like, no way, right? Like, you look at like Ansem, like back in the day, right? Like all of Ansem's tweets are mostly short, and every once in a while he posts this like super long essay, and then like Sol goes down. You know what I mean? So, like, there's always this correlation where like the longer the tweet thread is, the worse it is. Basically, you're just like digging yourself a hole. Basically.
We should get to that, but I think that's what happened with these AI memes. I mean, maybe we'll circle back to that later. But memes went from like it's a cute pygmy hippo, it's a cute dog with a hat on it, to like all this AI thesis of AI influencers and KOLs.
Yeah, I think like once people start to try and justify and back rationalize why certain phenomena are happening in like this like highfalutin kind of speak, it's just all bad, right? Because like at the end of the day, like at some point you just kind of like, some meme coin trader is sitting in their parents' basement, and then like power goes out and they're staring at the reflection on their computer screen, and then it just kind of dawns on them like, what the fuck is actually going on? Like what am I actually doing? And it's like in those moments of clarity, then it's just like, well, all this like backwards justification is complete nonsense. It's just like, at least in the short term, what these guys care about. And I'm not saying anything about the long term. I mean, long term, all these devs and all these technical guys, on the tech side, they could be totally right. But I'm just saying, like, the market is dictated as, it's a voting machine in the short term, right? And it's a weighing machine in the long run. I think it was like, maybe I forget who said that. Was it Gary or Naval or something? But basically in the short term, if that's what people care about, and a dev is like working on their code and stuff, and on their second screen they're just like constantly watching the price action, while they're working. If that's what they care about, then like that's what's gonna move the market, in the short term. It's not going to be anything to do with the long term roadmap.
I mean, it's a huge change compared to the bear market where ETH was literally the only chain. I remember Rollbit moved their token from Solana to ETH and then suddenly started pumping, and people were like, okay, SPLs are dead. Like, ETH is the only chain. Compared to now, like this week, I've talked to several L2s that apparently the cool thing now is to speculate on like becoming an L1 instead. Like, why be an L2? Like, just like might as well go for the full premium of being an L1 rather than being an L2. And maybe this is the bottom. Maybe like we're bottoming, but I have a feeling that I think there is no bottom. There is no bottom, Vitalik, until you come on Steady, lads. You keep playing these games and not coming on. But that will mark the bottom when you finally come to the people, come organically to the people. So I responded to a tweet that I saw on my timeline, saying a lot of the stuff that we've been saying. Like ETH sounds like philosophical. We kind of. It was time.fun, if you want to bring it up, Justin. They moved from Base to Solana, which is a sentiment I've been hearing, that generally, Base has kind of maybe dropped the ball a bit, and the builders that are just looking for active traders, degens, activity, are right now using Solana. These guys said the vibes could be more different. We've seen a few of these posts recently, and then it's always like Solana Foundation just responds like welcome at the bottom. This is usually the okay, and then Jesse's like, thanks for coming, see you next time, respect for very nice guy. But
Jordy, I totally agree with you. I think, and not just facetiously, that Vitalik should come on Steady, lads, but he like really should, right? Because like at the end of the day, like, there's always this sentiment with the ETH crowd, like on Farcaster and stuff, that they're like kind of in this research ivory tower, right? They spend all their time drawing boxes and lines, basically, right? And they really need to come and talk with us retards and degens, right? They need to come and talk to the people. Right? If that's what
talk to the people,
about, right? Like, I think it's totally fine that they don't. If they really have conviction that what they're doing is correct, right, and they don't need feedback from us degens and retards, that's okay too. But then they can't complain about short-term price action. If they're right, in the long term they'll win, and in the short term they'll just have to suffer pain, right? But if they care about the short term at all, they need to come talk to the people. So I totally agree. They need to come on Steady, that's for sure.
Vitalik sort of reminds me of Kamala Harris dodging Joe Rogan, just thinking, we're just friendly guys, the three of us. We just want to talk to him, get to know him anymore. We're not going to grill him too hard. But, like to me, Vitalik is a little woke, sort of like in the same bucket as Kamala Harris. And I think, it's just a little, he's scared, but we're nice people. We want to have him on. We're friendly.
I'm all for it. I think that's what he needs to be. But, you can do what he wants to do.
Yeah, we need to get his opinion on Goatsy. Like no one has been able to extract that. So
I want to get your guys' opinion on Goatsy. If anything, you guys been in the Justin and
it's only me. In
the trenches. Yeah.
It's only me.
Oh, thank you.
Jordy and Justin shitting on me.
No, I think it was just me shitting. To be honest, I'm getting all the flack. Somehow Jordy is a little skeptical too, but he never gets flack from this stuff. I get all the flack.
So we have a full spectrum here. So Justin thinks it's like all stupid. I think the meta is here to stay, but it's not necessarily like the coins that we saw last week. And we've already seen Genon died. Goat is still alive. It might have some staying power. And Taiki is just like full in. He's full in. So we have the full spectrum here.
Yeah, I was posting Goatsy like a week ago, and then all my shit coins are down like 70% at this point.
I just have to point something out. We had this episode a week ago. Look, we're cherry picking goats down, call it 41% from the all-time high. We're cherry picking price highs to where it's at now. Who cares about that? I did say though, like, you know, this is all just one big rotation game. What about Moodang, our cute pygmy hippo? And Moodang got a Binance listing the day after our episode, and I think it pumped a couple 100% back to close to the highs, which is quite interesting. But I do think, like, you know, we'll see in the next couple of weeks. But what I pointed out that was just sort of like, you know, if this AI meme coin thing turns out to be a fad, then I think it's safe to assume that all of these meme coin categories can just be fads, which is fine. But I really do think, like, until proven otherwise, these are just hot ball rotations of money.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's just that, like, this is like the first meme coin meta that I was actually interested in, so I just embraced it. And then I rode, like, my shitcoins went up like 10, 15x, and then it went down 70% in a single day. It's like, oh yeah, like, this shit's only fun when it's pumping. But such is life.
Fakey, you're forcing me to find a new pasta now. I mean, like, I was gonna use your pasta now. You said it now. I'm gonna have to get a new pasta. So Taiki's tweet about it's only fun when the price is going up and the AI stuff is less cool when it's not. Was gonna be my pasta. Okay.
Yeah, I have some other pastas. If you go to my profile, I have a lot of pastas.
No, I'm never gonna use the Taiki pasta ever again. You're just gonna ruin it on the show. No more Taiki pasta.
Yeah, my thought on the whole goat thing, I'm kind of in the middle too. I kind of like it for the reason that it was like pretty emergent and organic, and there was like quite a bit of work that went into it, right? You know, from the developer and whatnot, and also maybe comparing it a little bit to like SPX 6900. You know, there's at least some work that went into that website and the content that they put up there. I think people were kind of getting sick of just like cute animals and pictures and stuff like that, right? That you can just launch with a click. So, you know, I think that, you know, the meta is changing a little bit there, but at the same time, it's like hard to say, like maybe some new meta comes and upseats it. You know, it's always like the first thing always does well. And then there's always like infinite copycats, right? Like Genon and all these other things. And then that just like hurts everything basically, you know? So yeah, I mean, hard to say either way, but I kind of still like GOAT right now. We don't own any, but I still kind of like it.
Yeah. If GOAT goes to 0, then I'll probably never touch memes again. It's pretty brutal. There was also this shitcoin on like Ethereum. So there's like the GOAT on Ethereum called like like Teehee, and then because like the ETH people are so maybe like the ETH people are like very ethical, like, oh, like this is not our token, so it went to like a $40 million market cap, and then the team were like, please, like, don't buy this token, and then it went down like 90%. So even like the ETH people couldn't pump like the ETH version of GOAT.
Is that the one where like anonymous people can like go through a TEE to go make posts on Twitter or something?
It uses TEE, but I don't think anonymous people can post about it. It's about like a pet rock that has emotions. It was built by News Research, actually. News Research, they launched a subnet on BitTensor, left, and then they just like launched some like random AI agent shitcoin. Or they didn't launch a shitcoin, but they launched like an AI agent bot that has a token. So they're fucking around. They're trying things.
I see. Yeah. I think they were making some joke that like Balloon Lover, the venture apologist guy, was really like multiple people's accounts and everybody's going through like a TEE. So I think that's like something different. Yeah.
Okay, so you know you're somewhat optimistic, GOAT, but you know the jury remains out.
So something that made me chuckle pretty hard recently is I'm following this Korean streamer. Trading streamers, you know, Koreans love their trading streamers, and Jadoodoo was long ETH for a while. I think she doesn't know what's been going on for all this year. She just entered into a long ETH position. So we see here, she's 30x long on Ethereum, and she says, "Thank you, Vitalik. You are my god." And she's wearing the soccer jersey and like pumping, you know, up $36,000. Just you know, you're my god. And she did not close her position. Rookie mistake when you're long ETH. Let's see what happened the following day. So 3 days later, the 50,000 profit disappeared in an instant. Ethereum was not a god, it was trash. Still does not close the position. Let's see what happens next. 2471 now on Ethereum. Mic test to the commander's office. Never hold Ethereum. I repeat, never hold Ethereum. And then we can see the final tweets. There's a whale alert on the 26th of October. Somebody transfers 32 million. She says, "Who the fuck just keeps selling ETH? Save me from this hell."
I gotta give her credit. She's learned in 4 days what I still haven't learned over 5 years being in this industry. So kudos to her.
She's a first cycler,
Yeah.
This was me in 2020. I bought ETH and I was like, holy shit, Vitalik is my god. And I was like, oh my god, this is insane. And now I'm like, god fucking damn it, Vitalik. Why?
It's a whole roller coaster of emotion, It's the euphoria, all the stages, denial, anger, everything, basically.
Yeah, we still haven't capitulated, unfortunately. Happening soon.
Unless he comes on the pod. Then it'll be
yeah.
It's not necessarily like him coming on. It's what it would show. The fact that he would come on would show that he's on the right path.
100%. Yeah. I mean, making a bankless appearance, it's too friendly. You know what I mean? It's too much of a friendly kind of a,
That's
thing.
like when Kamala went on Call Her Daddy, right? It's the same thing.
Exactly. Oh, exactly right.
All right, let's wrap up with a pasta of the week. There's a few good ones I've seen, and mine got ruined by Takey, so I have a new one now. Okay, all right, I'll do mine first. Here we go. So this was a few days ago when Bitcoin was getting very close to the all-time high. It was 2K away. And Ethereum also happened to be 2K away from all-time high. A bit of a different percentage difference. But know the rules, when the workplace girl gets hit on with Bitcoin being 2K away, she thinks it's sweet. And when it's ETH, we have to call human resources.
Yeah, the bottom guy is Eugene. That's the bottom guy right there.
It's Michael Saylor and Eugene.
Kevin, I do not know of what you speak. There is no way that a venerable member of the well-known DWF, very ethical and moral company would ever stoop to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I thought DWF was like the moral compass of the space, so I was just completely surprised.
Heike, do you have anything to follow that up with?
Yeah, this is also kind of inappropriate, but I've been in the shitcoin trenches, and the one thing Morale talks about is having like free cult labor. So apparently, Mr. Dean Bulla here was on Pornhub, and in the comment section of some of these videos, we had people shilling pump fund tickers, like, how can I get this cat on Radium, bruh? And then has a pump ticker. Free cult labor. It's pretty bullish. Got everyone working for their bags.
Justin.
Yeah, I gotta clean up. First of all, my meme is this is gonna outclass you guys. I also think it's nice to go back a little towards civility. You guys are a little more on the appropriate side. I've been very concerned about AI, deep fakes, all of these scams going around, and this is just another helpful PSA, I would say, especially as we're all gearing up to go to Thailand for DevCon. I think this is something we all have to keep in mind. So today, my dad got a call that no parent ever wants to hear. He heard me tell him I was wrapped up in a crypto scheme involving Thai prostitutes and needed $30K to bail me out. This time, it was me, but soon AI will be able to make these calls indistinguishable. Scary. And I think we all have to be careful, give your folks a heads up that you're going to Thailand just so they don't think it's an AI call if you give them a ring and you need to get bailed out.
That's great.
So you are buying into the AI thesis. You're coming
exactly. AI agents are the future.
Of scams.
I feel like those were all weak pastas. No one laughed at an pasta. We all just laughed at our own pastas.
I liked them all. I thought they were all pretty funny.
I think the intern one is epic, but everyone's seen it. It has millions of impressions, so everyone's already seen that one. So Kevin, which of the three pastas is going to win? What's the pasta of the week?
You know what I actually thought was the funniest was the Korean girl. Actually, I thought that was. Yeah.
Hey, why wasn't that your pasta, Jordy? That was so much better.
That was hilarious. She went through all the emotions. She went through all the stages of grief. It was so fast. Went through a full cycle. In a few days.
Yeah, and if you want to check her Twitter and scroll up, She has stopped trading ETH. She's only logging Bitcoin now. She's talking about Bitcoin, so she's moved on. She learned it in 1 week.
My gosh, she's so smart. What the fuck?
Wow. Seems like a lot of people learned that lesson over a couple
Let's
cycles.
go.
You know, she just speed ran a cycle. That's all it was. You know?
And now
Bitcoin to the
she's rich
moon.
now.
Wait,
Yeah, she bought it at 69, so she's rich.
Oh wait,
she also
ETH
bought
again.
Ethereum on the 28th and made $7,000.
Oh no.
See, it's
Oh, but-
okay.
like you
But
can't
she
assume
learned.
it's
She took
unfortunate.
profits. Wait, can you click on that tweet? Like she took profits on half. She learned her lesson. Whenever ETH pumps, you have to sell.
Yeah, you're always smarter in your second cycle. That's definitely true.
Well, I don't know about that. You become a mid curve on your second cycle, I think, because you have the PTSD. You're not gonna get wrecked, but you're gonna miss out on all the pumps.
All right. So Jadoodoo, you are the pasta of the week winner. Wherever you are out there in Korea, congratulations. All right, guys. Well, it's going to be a busy week. I think there's a lot of data coming out, and then we have the election results. So could be a very different world when we next see you. Hopefully, it'll be to the upside. Take care.
Bitcoin all-time highs and a Trump presidency. That's my prediction.
Let's go. Yeah, thanks for having me.
See you, Kevin. Thanks for coming on.